In the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and the Equal Protections Clause, there is a policy called affirmative action. This policy becomes more relevant to a person when they apply to colleges. As they fill out their Common App and Coalition App, some will wonder more than others about if they are getting in or not. This is because of affirmative action. Harvard, Brown, Princeton, MIT, Yale, Stanford, and Columbia are some popular colleges that most students apply to that practice affirmative action. Since the 1960s, this policy has been in place at these universities and more in order to create equal opportunities for underrepresented minorities. But what really is affirmative action, and what does it really do?
Affirmative action is a law that helps increase the underrepresented population in terms of education and employment. And it's actually trying to offer the same kind of opportunity that all the rest of the population enjoys. In some cases, some of the highly qualified individuals have been excluded from college admission. It was much bigger than it is now because it has become a pretty controversial topic, and there are some states and some movements who are actually against the affirmative action in college admissions, and there are still two big camps. One camp is actually for it, the other camp is against it. The camp that's for it usually are the population that would benefit from the affirmative action. For those who are against it, usually are those who have been advantageous in terms of college admissions.
Despite having noble intentions of creating equal opportunities for all races, affirmative action is extremely flawed. Unsurprisingly, this policy has come under some scrutiny over time. One notable figure who opposed this policy was Governor Pete Wilson of California.
For years, timetables were added, along with compliance officers, and the goals became de facto quotas. Preference, to put it in simplest terms, is the euphemism that we use to describe the discrimination by which a quota is achieved. It's the process that guarantees the selection of a member of a favored group rather than an individual who has won the prize on merit. And selection in this system is based not on merit, not on any act of the applicant to earn selection. It's based instead on membership in a preferred group defined by race, ethnicity, or gender.
This topic has come under scrutiny from students also. We interviewed some to hear what they have to say.
I feel like affirmative action is a good program to a certain extent, especially when it blocks entrance to certain applicants that truly really deserve to get into those top colleges. And then the people that do get in, they can't quite compete with those top level students that actually get into those good colleges.
I feel like the idea is good, but the execution is bad because it prevents people who deserve to get into really good colleges from going there.
I feel like to a certain extent affirmative action can help certain people, but it can also be a problem for people who are not minorities. It can affect them getting into good colleges, which they worked hard to get into.
Points out the nation is being divided, but it's being divided in many instances by a well-intended system of racial, ethnic, and gender preferences that inescapably is unfair, that inevitably breeds resentment on the part of those who are treated unfairly by it, and as a result, it is a system that is dividing Americans.
The reaction a little
So
bit.
the reaction from colleges has been very negative. Many of them that actually practice affirmative action believe it's important to achieve diversity and their educational goals.
This policy is truly dividing Americans. Many institutions argue that affirmative action allows for the inclusion of many ethnic backgrounds to enrich the experiences of their students, although many argue it is a form of racial profiling and racism. In this case, Abigail Noel Fisher argues that she did not gain acceptance to the University of Texas at Austin due to being white. The Supreme Court ruled in 2016 that colleges are allowed to use race in admissions as long as they provide evidence that is to achieve diversity. In this case, Alan P. Bach argued that he did not gain acceptance to UC Davis's School of Medicine due to 16 seats being reserved for the students of underrepresented minorities. The decision was made by the Supreme Court, and they upheld the use of affirmative action, but outlawed the use of a quota system. Trump's Justice Department is developing a case against Harvard for violating civil rights laws by discriminating against Asian Americans. According to a Princeton study on the effect of affirmative action on admissions, using whites as a control group, they came to the conclusion that an applicant's race gave a certain advantage equivalent to a certain number of points being added or subtracted to your SAT score. This means if a black applicant scored a 1200, an Asian applicant would have to have a 1480 to be considered as an equivalent.
Coming in California by the year 2000, no ethnic group will constitute a majority in California. Preference for the members of any one minority as a group must by definition be at the expense of more deserving individuals in all other minority groups.
Proposition 209 banned the use of race, sex, or ethnicity to determine admission within the University of California system. At UC Berkeley, the acceptance rate for underrepresented minorities were roughly double the acceptance rate for other races before the proposition. When the proposition went into effect, there was a sharp decline for the acceptance rate of underrepresented minorities, but over time it slowly increased and currently it is relatively equal. Several states have followed in California's footsteps and have banned affirmative action. The use of affirmative action needs to stop. Under the 14th Amendment, this should not exist. Only 9 states have stopped this. The use of race should not be used in admissions process. But what should college admission offices do instead? The solution is simple. Every college should have colorblind admissions to prevent forms of racial profiling. No one should be penalized for the race they were born with because they have no control over that. They do have control over what they do. Colleges should not accept based on the color of one's skin, but by merit and accomplishments a student has made. Colleges should be populating their campuses with diverse and bright minds who have earned their spot there with high grades and great achievements. Having diverse demographics will not help the world make advancements, but cultivating the brightest minds in the same environment will. That is truly the only way for the world to advance. Give everyone a fair chance. Everyone deserves that.